With Tesla finally adding the highly desirable luxury feature of ambient lighting to their Model 3 Highland, existing owners are trying to find a way to get that in their cars too. So thanks to EV-Base for sending me out this lighting kit so I can check it out. So this review has no input from EV-Base, just want to note that these are all my own opinions, but if you guys do like what you see after watching this video, you can head down to the link below. You can pick up this lighting kit or any of their other products like the aero covers and get 15% off your order using my code GAV. So if you guys want to skip around, if you're just looking for the installation, you can use the play bar below in YouTube or the description to skip through the chapters and go to what you want to see. But just to get right to the point, we'll just start with the results. So the first thing I noticed when I turned these on was they are extremely high quality LEDs. The diffusion is basically perfect. You cannot see the individual LEDs at all unless you get right up next to it and put it in a certain color. It stretches across almost the entire dashboard. That's one of my little things with it, is it doesn't go the entire length of the dashboard. You can see on the left side, whatever side you put the cable on, it makes it a little trickier. If they did decide to go the whole dashboard, there wouldn't be as easy routing for the cable. I think they could have made it a little bit longer because it doesn't go the whole length, but in order to make it symmetrical, they have to make it not the entire length so that you can have the cable on whatever side. But I think they could have made it a little bit longer, but that's here nor there. So there is an optional under screen LED that you can add onto this. I personally don't think it's worth it. It adds a lot of cost to the kit, and it's a little nice accent lighting. Like I said, they sent it out to me, so I have it to show you guys, but I would probably just get the main strip. From the back seats, it looks pretty cool, but we'll see how that looks at night later, but in the daytime especially, not much to see down there. And these lights are Bluetooth controlled, so it's just a controller in there. It's super easy to connect. We'll go over that in the installation. But you can use your phone app to control all the settings, and it will save the most recent settings, so whenever you get in the car, it'll turn on to that setting. They have some other LED options. Of course, this is the kit I got, so I can't really review the other ones. For the newer consoles, there's also some lighting you can get as well. It goes down the side, some sunroof stuff as well, but obviously I don't have that here. And these are meant to be ambient lights. They're not meant to light up the whole car, so they're not super intrusive. They're plenty bright, but they're not too bright. They're not like flashing in your face. It's kind of meant to mimic that Mercedes, Audi, BMW kind of ambient lighting where it just kind of goes along the trim pieces and is really clean and just kind of gives you some lighting at night, but not like it's turning on the dome lights or anything. And I think these work really well for that, and it's hard to get this same kind of effect with lower quality LED strips. Like if you tried to mount your own LED strips, you're going to have huge hot spotting, and this has a nice thin profile, so it really does look like it's meant to be there, aside from the fact that it doesn't stretch the whole length. So that's really nice. So with that basic overview done, we can go into the installation, and then after that I'll go into a deep dive of all the features. So the kit comes in a fairly small box that includes your main LED strip, your under screen LED strip, the Bluetooth control box, a roll of double-sided tape for installation, the trim removal tool, a USB hub, and your documentation. So before we get started on the install, there's a few important details that have to be squared away before you can start going. So the first thing is you got to choose what power supply you want to use. You can either use the 12-volt cigarette lighter in the armrest storage, or you can use the USB, which is located in your center console below the wireless phone chargers. If you decide to use the 12-volt cigarette lighter, it will stay on all the time, and you'll have to either turn it on and off with the phone app, or you have a button on that power port to turn it on and off. The kit I got did not have one of those included, although I did see that in the past they used to include those. I don't know if they do in other models, but the one that I'll have linked to the one I have here only has a USB. So if you have a cigarette lighter with a USB adapter, you can use that. But I'm going to try and use the USB because if you use that, it will turn off with the car. It'll just always turn on when the car turns on, which these aren't too bright in terms of, getting in your face. So I think that's totally fine. And if you want to turn it off, you can just use the app or unplug it and reach in there. Now, this is going to differ between pre-refresh center consoles and post-refresh center consoles. So I believe it was 2021 around there when the Model Y got the new center console, and that install is going to differ slightly. Most of the routing is the same, it's just like the final routing that's going to be different. So I'm going to be using the USB install here. If you want to do the cigarette lighter, I'll show you guys the routing for that, but that's going to be the same between the post and pre-refresh cars. The only difference is with the USB connection for this car. So in the new cars, they have a separate panel, And I'll try and link a video. I think I found one that shows it off, but there's actually a separate panel that you can remove that has the USB ports on it, and that allows you to sort of route the cables through the bottom of the center console and out. Obviously we don't have that one, so I can't show you, but I'll try and find that picture to just throw up there. In our case, it's a completely sealed compartment, so you gotta drill a hole somewhere. So I basically took a 1/2-inch drill bit and just drilled a hole in the right spot where it's not gonna hit anything, and I was able to route both cables through there to plug everything in. I'll show you guys all that stuff, but I just wanted to warn you before you start watching this whole installation guide. There's a couple other videos you can find on installs on the post-refresh center console, but at least the initial wiring, which we'll get to here, is the same. So the first steps of wiring is going to be taking off these two panels right here. We just want to take off, you can use the tool included in the kit, or if you already have a tool, that works too. Just kind of want to pry under there and get it to pop out. It sounds like you're breaking it, but these are some interesting clips on there. So you take that silver piece off. Once we get that off, we can start prying at this triangle trim. Take that guy off. And then we can take our big strip and we can just set it up here for now. We're going to be routing it back and around like that. But for now, it's going to be sitting in here. So we want to go and kind of squish it in there, and then I'll go down there. It's also important to note that I am on the driver's side here, and that's just easier. You can do it from the passenger side too. But the driver's side, it's the panel right here is a little bit easier to get at because of the glove box. So now we basically want to take this wire, we want to put it in here, and you can kind of peel this back. These clips are pretty tight. I did try to take it off. It doesn't like to move that much, so it's easier if you just kind of go along here and press it in, and you can kind of just slowly peel it back a little bit as you go along and push some wire in. And once it's in there, you'll be able to have slack and give it the tension you need. But we're just trying to get in there. It gets a little bit easier over here. We can get all the way to the end. Then we can kind of wrap around that edge and back down to there. And then this little clip, it's pretty annoying in there. This is going to be pretty hard to see here, but there is this rubber clip that's kind of annoying because it's not plastic. But you're going to want to have to basically push that back into its spot, or else it'll just hang like this. It's kind of hard to show on camera, but you have to basically nudge this rubber connector to go into the hole that it's from, kind of like that, and then that'll get a little better. It's never going to be perfect. It wasn't even perfect when I started, but that's about as tight as you can get it. So once you get it in here, we're going to do the routing quickly for the 12-volt socket because it's a lot easier. But this rubber panel right here is pretty flexible, and you can get the wire to essentially wrap back in here, and you can push it up underneath this one, just like so. And then you're going to just want to keep on pushing it in there. And I have this disconnected from the hub here. It's pretty easy. Don't have to really unclip anything. All right, so once you get to this end, you can use your tool and pop out just this last clip here. It's also kind of tight, but pop out that last clip. That allows you to wrap it around a little bit easier. Toss your cable in the center console there. Just tuck it in. This one, it doesn't like to click, but it goes in like that, and then you can probably do some tape in there to hold it in that position. You shut that, and that's pretty clean. And once you are in here, you got your 12-volt right there. You can buy one of those 12-volt adapters and plug it in right there. But now we can go back to doing the USB method. And for this method, we're essentially going to be trying to go into the center console from underneath. So this side carpet piece is actually separate from your main carpet. So we're going to remove this piece right here. It looks like it's kind of tricky to get started, but the easiest place I've found is right over here in this corner. You can kind of use the tool and use this corner to try and get it started like that. And then it also feels like you're breaking it. And the nice thing is there is a lot of clips on here, so if you do break one, that's at the end of the world. And then you can just kind of peel this off. pull straight back. There's a couple of clips that are tighter than others here. Just like that. Just pull straight back. We take this whole entire panel out. All right, so we get to the drilling in a second. I already have it drilled, but here's where the cable comes out. It comes out right up here. I'll try to get a picture of that in there, but we can go to the center console now to drill our hole for our box. All right, so obviously we have the pre-facelift center console. Open up all the lids. On the post-facelift one, your ports back here are actually on this side, and then this entire panel actually removes. But for this one, this entire thing is sealed. There's no panels to remove, so we got to drill a hole to get it out of this center console if you want to power it with that USB-A port. And in the kit, EV Base provides a USB hub, because you only have one Type A port in these pre-refresh cars. And you can take this wrapping off here, and that can go into your one USB port. We are using that for our Sentry mode. I already took that out. The Sentry mode drive, because this was before the glove box refresh as well. And this can go in there and give you some more ports. And with that guy installed, you can kind of get a reference for where that hole is. I'm going to go down there and try and show you guys. I basically found it by sticking my hand inside of there and just feeling around for this flat wall. And it turns out that that bottom left corner there has nothing behind it. So if you guys want to just trust me, you can, but if you want to feel for yourself, you can reach your hand in there. But back in here, it's just a flat wall. You've got probably about an inch or two of clearance before you hit something with the drill bit, so definitely go slow here. We used a 1/2 inch drill bit. 3/8 will fit one of the cables, but in order to get the full length, you're going to want to use a 1/2 inch so you can get both cables through. And I pondered for a while if there was another way around this, but with these doors, they just close so clean and like flush that there's just no way to route it. I tried to like go above. Unless you want to leave this big door open all the time, you could maybe route it along this edge and underneath like that. But it's kind of nice to be able to close this and keep the full functionality. So I don't think a hole is a big deal, and it works out really nicely, as you'll see in a second. All right, so I had to ditch the tripod for this one, so excuse the wobbliness, but you've got this plastic trim that's kind of attached to this piece that we went underneath of earlier. This is what you're going to want to lift up on, and it's actually back in here where, if I can get the shot, you can stick your finger in there and you can actually feel that flat wall. So that wall right there is the back side of the compartment. And you can see my hole right there with the wires coming through right down there. And that's where you're going to want to drill. And you can line it up by just putting your finger on it and then trying to line up your finger on the other side, or you can just use my method and go in the bottom left corner. So the next thing we can do is take our output wires here, and we just fed this entire block through, and we can just connect up both of our strips just to make sure we get the lengths proper and everything. And the short one here is kind of optional. I'm not sure if it's worth the value. We'll go over that in the results, but if you do get it, you can kind of put it wherever you want. In the pre-refresh console without the open phone storage, it kind of makes sense to just jam it in the corner. I'll show that in a second, but either way, you're probably going to want to route this cable up right where you had that other one and kind of jam it in like that and then go up from there. We're basically going to tuck our wire in to this gap right here. Try and get that to line up just like that. And you can press this wire all the way behind this trim piece so it doesn't fall out. Once those wires are all tucked in and we're routed all the way up to the top, we're basically good to seal this area back up. So you can kind of tuck it wherever you want to. Might grab a zip tie here. We can kind of bundle these cables up. All right, so once you got those zip tied right there, you're gonna wanna basically get these out of the way so they're not in the way of any of the connectors. We've got one there, we've got one there. Just so it doesn't get punctured at all. It'll obviously fall, but that's all right. That one's fine. And we can put our panel back in. And putting it in is also kind of annoying because there's so many tabs to line up. But basically want to try and like bend it inwards because the clips on this like to be pretty normal to the surface when they go in. So there's this circular one you want to kind of find. Might take some playing around with, but eventually you can get it and just pop all these in. Not a big deal, of course, it's just the carpet. That looks good right there. And in order to line this up, we're going to want to tuck this in. We're going to probably want to do the initial tape up here before we, secure this area, just so we can get the slack we need on there. But we'll go up to lining it up now. So the next thing we're going to want to do before we line it up on the dash is put our tape onto the LED strip. Just putting it on the proper side based on if you're doing driver's side or passenger side. We're doing driver's side, so we're going to put it on this side. And then you're just going to leave the covering on the other side, of course. Now, with the strip taped up and leaving the sticky side not exposed there, we're going to want to line it up. So they made the strip the exact length so that it lines up with this little indent right here. So if you look in your dash, you'll kind of see that it's consistent all the way down, and then it reaches a point right here where it sticks out a little bit more towards the edge. And that's what we're going to want to use to line it up. Obviously, if you want to be perfect, you can, measure it. I did check and make sure that they are the same, and yep, it's the same length. If you essentially line this up, the edge of the light strip with the beginning of this dip right about here. So I'm just going to use some masking tape and essentially just lock this in place over here, make sure it lines up on the other side, and then I'm going to mask it down the way, and then I'm going to go along and take off the sticky tape and then press up on it. All right, so we have it taped up on both sides. Obviously, it's going to just hang a little bit like that, but it's in the right place on both sides. So now we can start peeling off the edges and just working our way down and pressing it up into the dash right there. And with it all taped in, we can just kind of figure out this wire. I was thinking about maybe taping it back, but it's going to be kind of hard to get the tape back in there, and it really doesn't look that bad. So it might be easier just to put some tape over here and just put the panel back on. And with that, the cable is wrestled, and we can put our trim pieces back in. Just go ahead and line that up. That trim back in. And then this one. Just like that. And we're all nice and secure. And with the underscreen strip, we can do a similar technique. Put the tape right on there, and then find a good spot to put it in here. Now we just got to tuck this cable away and secure the strip fully. And just like that, the install is complete, and we can move on to setting it up. So in order to get it set up, all you got to do is look at the control box. There'll be a QR code on there. You can scan that with your phone, and you have to download the Magic Lantern app to control it. Pretty straightforward. All you got to do is, give the app access to Bluetooth and all that, and it pretty much automatically connects, and it looks pretty seamless. So here in the app, it's a pretty straightforward interface. There's a lot of settings in here. I was trying to look around. There's a few basic settings that you can change, stuff like that. But the default is just kind of rainbow. As you can see here, that's the startup animation. You can adjust, just set it to different colors. I can just click yellow or white, purple, just solid colors on the main screen here. This is just very simple controls. And if you go down to style right here is where you can see all the different unique, addressable RGB settings. So there's kind of a list up on top here, and that's kind of your main controls. So there's like basic, curtain, trans, water, flow, tail, run back. They have some interesting names, but you'll kind of have to just play around with them to figure out which one's which. Magic forward is magic refers to just rainbow is what I found. This autoplay setting basically just goes through all of the different settings just in sequence, just so you can kind of see all of them. But typical kind of color jumping, different RGB, different color combinations of jump. There's a ton of different settings in here that you can play with. But we can go over kind of each section here. So the curtain setting here, as you can see, it kind of just goes along the entire strip and opens a curtain, air quotes, and you can pick what color combination you want here. You can do RGB, and it'll just cycle between red, green, and blue color opening like that. All the different colors. And then this trans one is basically where it just has little sections that are moving across it. The color one, I think, just does everything. You can do, there's a ton of different things in here, but you can do, any different combinations that you want. And like RGB, you can see it's just red, green, blue, dashes going across it. And then for the water setting, it's very similar to that last one, except all the different sections are connected now instead of being like separate blocks. You can just do white like that, kind of cool. You can go, pick which direction you want it to go. And there's all the different color combinations in there. And then flow is very similar to the trans one, except there's a little more unique combinations here where it has like a central color in each line and then some edge colors. But similar effect there, and you can do the back just kind of means the other direction, as you can see there. And the tail setting here, very similar to the lines one, except it kind of varies the brightness along it, so it looks like it's like a comet or something, like a tail. Looks kind of cool. Again, you can change your colors on here. And the running setting, instead of a bunch of segments, now there's a bunch of dots. Again, you can choose your colors. You can change like the background with a dot in it, a single dot. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why you would really want just a single dot like that, but they got all these options in here. And then run back, I don't really know why they need a whole separate section for, but it's the same effect, just backwards. And then you can also change the speed with any of them. As you can see here, you can kind of do whatever setting you want and do the speed, slow it way down. It does look pretty jumpy at lower speeds. You can't really, it looks smooth at full speed, but for some reason it gets a little jumpy, not too bad. It's just when you get really slow where you can definitely see it. Because of course it's not infinitely, it's not like a display, right? It has actual LEDs in there, so it has some resolution it can do at lower speeds. And then you can also adjust the brightness with any of the settings. Full brightness, not intrusive at all. Again, these LEDs are basically perfectly diffused. It's super hard to see the individual LEDs. I really like that about them. And then there's the music setting here. I'm not really sure why they have like these different songs in here. I guess you can play it and see how it reacts. It can try to use the mic to do it. It works. As you can see, when I talk, it does flash. But I generally don't like music settings. I tried it with the car's music. I'm not going to do it for copyright, but it doesn't work great. With my voice here, it works decent. But it's not going to sync to the music. It's just kind of flashing. So wouldn't really recommend that, but it's in there if you want it. And then one other thing is when you're... Here, I'm going to go. And then one other thing you can do is it will actually stay on the setting you leave it on if you disconnect your phone. So we can just set it to water. We'll just do RGB water. And the default is that rainbow color. So if I go in here and I just unplug it as if I was resetting it. It will do the RGB starting animation like that. It'll bounce back and forth. And then it'll just turn right back onto what setting you had it on. And you can disconnect your phone and it'll just save on that setting. So that's kind of nice. If you don't want to open your phone every time, it won't just go back to RGB. And that's going to be it for the setup. It was pretty straightforward. The app's layout is decent. I've obviously seen better. There's a lot of different options in there, so I don't know if you need all those. I wish the different settings had more display instead of all these like code names and stuff like that. Like the adjust menu looks the best. This style menu, which is where all the cool stuff is kind of cluttered. But you can kind of find your best setting and leave it on that. Alright, so as you can see there, I just ran the heat for about 20-25 minutes there, just full high, with the door shut of course, got up to about 82 degrees in here. I realized that doesn't really simulate like a hot summer's day in the sun, but just to address people's concerns of the fact that you're taping right in the line of sight of the heater, just had it on for that long and I don't feel like they're going anywhere. It was pretty good tape, and these things are so light I would not be concerned. It's not like a normal LED strip. These things are like extremely light. So it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I can't really test summer stuff right now because it's winter right now, but it holds up in that test. All right, so now we're gonna do some lighting tests. Here in the garage, we just have some like garage lighting. Obviously the roof is tinted, so this is kind of like cloudy day simulation-ish because it's sunny out, so we're gonna go test, how bright it is in the sun, but this is pretty perfect. It's plenty bright. Like I said, it's not blinding you, but looks good right now. All right, and then here we are in the direct sunlight. As you can see, I'm getting blinded. It's kind of direct sunlight. It's pretty bright out. One thing is we do have tinted windows on the front, so no matter what I did here, we're not going to get like perfect lighting, but it is coming directly through the windshield. And they're still visible. The bottom one, pretty much useless. You're not getting any glow out of that when it's bright out. But the main lighting is still visible, so I think that's a win here compared to some, fiber optic applications. Any sort of lighting, and those fiber optic ones are really dim. Like I have those in my car, so these look good. All right, and here we are at nighttime. You can see kind of how it looks with here. I'll obviously put some B-roll shots over this. It looks great. It's maybe a little brighter than other ambient lighting things I've seen, so you could turn that down if you want. But I kind of like it. It's not too in your face. You can definitely see the reflection up in the dashboard, but it looks good overall. The underscreen light is reflecting a little bit, so you can definitely see that. It's kind of cool. Again, I don't know if that one's worth it, but it's visible down there, and I'm sure for the back passengers it looks pretty cool too. And you could, change where you want to mount that as well if you'd like. Obviously I have the dome lights on here so you can see me, but looks pretty cool at night. I also tested how long it takes for the Tesla USB ports to lose power, and it's kind of complicated. So the ports seem to lose power about 5 to 30 minutes after the doors are shut and the car's locked. However, when you have Sentry mode on, it keeps the USB ports powered indefinitely to keep your SSD drive powered. But since Sentry mode already uses a pretty significant amount of power overnight, adding some LEDs won't really be that big of a deal. So I don't think this is that big of a deal. You can turn them off if you'd like with your app every time you get out, because the app does load fairly quickly. But I think this is totally fine for some low power LEDs. This product is normally about $80 for the main dashboard light, and it's about $67 with my code, but I'd say that's still pretty expensive. But you are getting very high quality LEDs that provide great accent lighting and have cool animations. And its automatic power on with the car makes it feel very OEM, unlike many other lighting packages that you have to switch on and off every time. And the Tesla Model 3 and Y interior is very suited for an LED package like this with the clean lines on the dashboard vent. And once again, thanks to EVBase for sending these out for review, and you guys can go pick them up at the link in the description using my code GAV to get 15% off, in addition to their Black Friday sale going on right now on some of their other products over the next few days. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.